on? You're tuned into the On The Beat podcast. Make sure you follow us on IG at onthebeat.podcast. This is your boy Supa Mario, and you're tuned in to the On The Beat podcast. Let's go. Yeah, you on the beat, talking on the beat, learning on the beat, watching on the beat. Get your skills up, won't you listen up? Yeah, you tuned in live, yeah, you on the beat. The beat podcast. On the beat podcast. On the beat podcast. On the beat podcast. Yo, what's going on, man? This is your boy Supa Mario with On The Beat podcast. What's good with you guys, man? Glad to be back with you all. Bringing you a podcast episode talking about music production and mixing and all that other good stuff and whatnot, man. Today, man, we're going to talk about top-down mixing and how that can help your mixes sound better, quote unquote, whatnot, man. And exactly what is top-down mixing. And we'll get into that, man. I just want to do a little promo plug. You know what I'm saying? This video content is being brought to you by Jack's Creative Media. And, you know what I'm saying? And everything about this podcast, this audio, video, and everything like that, man. Shout out to Jack's Creative Media and shit like that, man. One announcement I want to give out is if you guys are not in tune to the Music Soul Live Showcase, they will be having their showcase December 19th, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Live on Instagram and Facebook. All you have to do is go follow Music Soul Live Showcase on Instagram. That's at Music Soul Live Showcase, all one word. And also follow them on Facebook. Just type in Music Soul Live Showcase and you'll find them on Facebook. Basically, this showcase is to showcase indie artists in the Houston area, primarily R&B indie artists, and showcase their talent and what they do and everything like that. Yeah, definitely be a star-studded event, I like to call it, and whatnot. But you have 10 contestants working hard towards a prize package that includes a recording studio or studio time, should I say, package, a photo shoot, and also a video shoot. So you already know these contestants really going to come out and really bring it and stuff like that. Y'all make sure you go support these fine young gentlemen and young ladies that will be competing for that prize package right there, man. Again, you can follow Music Soul Live Showcase on Instagram at Music Soul Live Showcase. Just wanted to put that out there. And from there, you'll see all these wonderful folks on the timeline for Music Soul Live Showcase. Excuse me on that microphone. Got a new microphone, new orientations. I'm trying to get used to my hands being where it needs to be at. All right, so let's talk about top-down mixing, man. What the hell is top-down mixing? Before I get into top-down mixing, I want to talk about like the traditional side of mixing. Normally, when you record and you put all your you put all your stuff in a DAW or mixing console or whatever you use to multi-track mix. Okay, using multi-tracks to mix or whatnot. You would have all these different tracks. Okay, with different sources on there. And traditionally, what would happen is you will have to work on those individual tracks, making sure that the balance is right, the tonality is right, getting the right dynamics on it, getting the right EQ on it and whatnot. And then from there, you do a lot of signal routing for as hardware processing or, you know, sending signal to effects processors. And then from there, you'll take that, a number or a series of signals from the individual tracks and have those bus to auxiliary tracks or bus tracks or mixed bus tracks or, you know, effects returns and stuff like that. Okay. So basically you're taking an individual signal or two signals and two or more signals and busing those to these group channels. I just keep it plain and simple, group channels. All right. They have different names, auxiliary tracks, bus tracks, mixed bus tracks, all that other shit. Okay. not to try to confuse you or whatnot, but you'll bust all of these individual sources into one group. Okay. And then from there, you'll kind of sweeten that group up to make the sound enhance and stand out in the mix a little bit more. And you may have like different groups, you know, a group for the drums, a group for the vocals, a group for other instruments, and a group for percussion and stuff like that. Who knows? However you got it set up or whatever the case may be. And then from those groups, you'll have it go to a mix bus or a master bus or a master track or whatever the case may be. And then you'll be done with your mix, after you process that particular mix bus, master track, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Okay. But in this case, I've been noticing on the internet, a trending topic in the audio engineering world is this top-down mixing. Now, it's new to me. I never heard of it before. But when I heard of it, top-down mixing, it made my mind run. It made me seem like, hey, man, what it is, what is this entailing? Top-down. It should be down top. It should be down up. But top-down mixing. I wanted to know, okay? So I'm reading you guys an article. I found a real good read on sonarworks.com, their blog, and they have an article written up about top-down mixing. And I'm just going to break this article down and talk to you guys about it, okay? And it makes sense to me, but it may not make sense to you. So I'll make sure I have this article link in the description below this podcast. Okay, so make sure you just click on that and read up on it and kind of like get your 2 cents on it. Okay. Now we already explained traditional way of getting your mix mixed. Okay, but they have their own opinion about it. Okay. The reason they go through this top down mixing theory, it is basically for inexperienced mixers. That's how they kind of try to sell this. Okay. So for inexperienced mixers, they say they tend too much time. You have a tendency to have too much time concentrating on the individual tracks to make that sound so good. They want you to kind of like use this particular top-down mixing method to kind of like take your mind off of that and start backwards, because that's what you're really doing with top-down mixing. You're actually mixing backwards. Okay, so that's what they want you to do. Work backwards. Okay, all right. Now they give you 2 tips on to eliminate or at least reduce the tendency of hyper focusing on those individual tracks to get it sounding so good. Okay. Number 1 is going to be it makes you stay focused on the overall feel or the vibe of the mix rather than starting on minor details or major details that really won't make a difference in the mix. I don't know how I feel about that particular statement right there. They go on to say the audience reacts to the message and feel the audience will react to the message and the feel or the vibe of the song, and not really depending or the position of the hi-hat in the stereo field. Okay, so they want you to keep the vibe of the song by working backwards. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, I get you, but it got to make sense to me, and it's got to make sense to you, right? All right, cool deal. So keeping the vibe, all right, that's one thing it's going to help you do. Keep the vibe of the overall mix, and not worry about the specifics. Okay. Number 2. This top-down mix is supposed to make you work quickly, okay? Make you have better decisions when you're moving forward, okay? You'll sometimes you have a tendency to keep tweaking as you move forward or whatnot. So they don't want you to dwell on one decision on one sound, so to speak, okay? They want you to, keep moving forward, making decisions or whatnot. So they say a good strategy would be to have a template that allow you to work quickly without, so to speak, putting yourself in a corner. Okay, because a lot of times you'll want to have a template to, okay, I know where to go here, I know what to fix here, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you just may be starting out fresh and without a template. Top-down mix is supposed to help you work quickly. Okay, so number 2 things: keeping the vibe and to work quickly. That's what top-down mixing is tailored to do. Okay, that's what sonarworks.com said. Okay, you might want to go find a YouTube video and look a little bit more on top-down mixing, but that's what sonarworks.com, this article is mentioning. You know what I'm saying? Better mixes with top-down mixing. All right, let's go ahead and get into this and break this down. All right. So going down on this article, and they go to state, top-down mixing is a strategy
to begin mixing working with the mix bus or the subgroups and to stay focused. Okay. And it also goes on to, to get a feel for the whole song rather than treating the individual mixes. Okay. They will always want you to start with the mix bus. Okay. And they want you to work backwards. They say we mix into a process mix bus from the very start. So they want you to apply processing on the mix bus from the very start and then work your way and funnel down into the subgroup buses. Okay. And then they say once you get to the subgroup buses, that's supposed to have a major impact over the overall sound of the mix. Okay. That way you can get the mix sounding cohesiveness cohesive, sounding cohesive and balanced in a very little time. Think about that. You process in the mix bus and you move down to the subgroups. Okay. And then you start processing those subgroups so you can have an impact over the overall sound of the mix. So it can sound cohesive and be balanced in a short amount of time. All right. Remember that, y'all. All right, cool deal. So from there, you'll work your way into the individual tracks, but only if it's necessary. So if you have some sounds that really need to be tweaked or they really need to be worked on as far as processing is concerned, then that's where you will go on those particular tracks and make those decisions based on those individual tracks and how they sound in the overall mix, the balance and the cohesive mix that you have already. Okay. Now, he goes on to say that they blame this particular technique, top-down mixing, as a 80-20 rule, which is known as the Paretos or the Paretos. That's spelled Pareto''S principle. Okay, the Pareto's principle. This is for mixing. Okay, this principle is for mixing. For mixing, this means 80% of the results will come from 20% of our mix moves and decision. Top-down mixing ensures that the critical 20% comes first. Okay, so with top-down mixing, the 20% of the most important mix moves that you have to do will come first, stemming from the processing that you do on the mix bus, then to the subgroups that whatever you do on those, and then from the individual tracks, whatever you need to make a change. So let's say, for instance, if you have an acoustical guitar that has a lot of low end rumble and you hear that in the overall mix, you'll go to that particular individual track and cut that out of there instead of trying to make it sound all pretty and then it doesn't sound right at the long way. So I kind of get where they're coming from with this, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. They also go on to say that top-down mixing can also be thought of as mixing layers. Interesting. Never thought of mixing in layers, or mixing will have something to do with layers. Music production, yes. Mixing, yeah, I don't know. Let's go on and see what they said. They said when you're mixing in layers, you want to start with the master bus, which will be the top layer. So starting with the master bus will be the top layer, okay? From there, with that top layer, master bus, it'll have an impact on each and every single element in the mix, okay? Then we'll process the middle layer. The middle layer will be your subgroups, okay? So master track, subgroup tracks, okay? That's your middle layer, okay? The middle layer of the subgroups, those mixing decisions at this particular middle layer stage will affect every track that's feeding into the respectable subgroups. And then finally, of course, you have the lower level, which it will be the individual track. So master track high, subgroups low, mid, and individual layers lower. And that would be the lower level, the individual tracks. Okay, and again, by taking care of the first two layers, you should be very little to do on. There should be very little to do on those individual tracks. Okay, and this would allow the workflow. To stay sharp, stay focused, and make better mix decisions on the individual tracks. All right. So that's what they kind of broke it down, you know what I'm saying? Using the Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, 20% of the mix decisions, the important ones, will be handled first, and the other 80% will be funneled down at the tail end of the process. And then you can break it down further and mix in layers. Master bus being the top, subgroups being the middle, individual tracks being the lower level mixing in layers technique. All right, cool deal. So with mixed bus processing, if you don't know anything about that, that's just basically simple stuff, you know what I'm saying? Processing like compression, limiting, and a little bit of EQing and stuff like that. You can rearrange it however you need to. There's no right or wrong way, but there's some recommended ways or whatnot. But mixed bus processing is primarily going to be compression and limiting to use on a mix before it goes into mastering. Okay, so you can use this a little bit, just sprinkle a little bit of that mixed bus processing to make it sound good. But so my thing of it is, if you're starting with mixed bus processing and you know you have to use some form of compression to glue the mix together, you're gonna have a tendency to make it sound good. So you're definitely gonna have to hold back on your compression when you put that on that mixed bus track or that master track or whatnot. Okay, just adding a little bit of compression, you know what I'm saying, to make it be balanced, to make it be toned, to control the dynamics and stuff like that. And actually a limiter as well. Now you're probably trying to figure out, well, not Rich, that's my government name. I just gave y'all my government name, man. Well, Supa, you know what I'm saying? Supa Mario, man. Talk to me slow, man. So you mean to tell me I need to apply like a bus compressor on the mix bus? Yes, you would. That would be one of the practices. And a good mix bus compressor would consist of something like a SSL style bus compressor, an API 2500 compressor, or a Fairchild 6070, or any type of FET compressor, you know what I'm saying? Stereo to be preferred. FET or FET style compressor. Okay. Now you can go on and use EQ, a mixed bus EQ, something with wide curves, known to have wide curves. And that could be something like a UAD, mainly massive passive EQ. If you have the UAD platform, those curves are very broad. They're very wide and stuff like that. And they're very gentle on the mix as well. So you could use something like that. You can use something like you have let's see here, the dangerous audio Bax EQ. That's another good one. It's more like a smiley face technique type of EQ. You can use your stock compressor, for example, Fab Filter Q3. That EQ is pretty good as well. And there's a lot of different mastering EQs out there. And they're basically say mastering EQ. You will want to use type of mastering grade EQ to control the tonality of that mixed bus processing. And if you want to add a limiter on there, feel free to do so. You know, I recommend, if you're using any type of electronic music or you producing any type of electronic music, I definitely would recommend using some type of transparent limiter. So something like a L2 or L1 from Waves, Fab Filter Pro L. There's a compressor out there called the Need 33609. Run that in limit mode and make everything fast on the attack and release, and be careful of your threshold, and so forth and so on. And then you can go on and color that mix bus or that master track with some type of color or some type of saturation, tape or tube saturation to be exact. Anything to color the track and give it a little bit more bob and stuff like that. Okay. Now, once you do all of that, and I hope it sounds good, you know what I'm saying? You'll want to move on to the subgroup layer. Okay. And that's that layer where you have all your drums bust together, all your guitars bust together, all your keys, all your vocals, all your other instruments, all your percussion sounds, you know what I'm saying? All of that'll be your subgroup layer. And, you know, you can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that in there to get the vibe of those overall subgroup type instruments. Okay. So This is where you will want to do very little compression. Now, I mean, very little compression. And also get some tonality with it with, again, some type of smooth, wide, angled Q-band with EQ or whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And even run these groups into parallel processing. You can utilize that technique as well on the subgroup tracks as well and stuff like that. But like I said, you know, whatever you're feeding from the subgroup layer, you want to go into your mix bus compressor, compressing no more than -3 dB of gain reduction. Okay. You have to be mindful of that, you know what I'm saying? And also your limiter shouldn't be triggering no more than, you know what I'm saying, -6 on your gain reduction. And -6 is even too much. I'll say -3, you know what I'm saying, on your limiter going into that mix bus track. So you have to be conscious of what's going on with your subgrouping as it feeds into that mix bus track. Okay, so be mindful of that. It's all about signal flow when you're doing this. Okay, now onto the lower level, that will be the individual tracks. Now, when you get to the individual tracks, this is where I kind of see where they make sense with this, but then I'm gonna tell you why it wouldn't make sense. But let me get into what I was gonna say though. So once you go from mix bus processing to subgroup processing, you get to the individual tracks and you hear a lot of things that'll stick out, a lot of things that could be cleaned up. And so let's say, for instance, you got a bass guitar or a bass sound that's a little bit too much thud or a little bit too much oomph or whatnot. You could definitely go ahead and try to play with that with the EQ. Let's say, for instance, you got a vocal that's just really not cutting it in the mix. Then you can apply a little bit of compression in there to bring that vocal out just a little bit to sit it, you know what I'm saying, or sit it and balance it and make adjustments in the mix a little bit more, and using EQ as that as well on the EQ as well. So that's where a lot of that 80% of your decision is going to come from. So I can kind of get what they're saying is you basically just applying a little bit of compression, EQ, limiting on the master track or the mix bus track. Then you'll go to your groups and do a little bit of tonality, a little bit of parallel compression, a little bit of compression, a little bit of tonality on that. Bam, you're done. And then once you get to the individual tracks, you'll have 80% of your decisions being made there, and it's going to take a little while because you may have anywhere from 12 to 48 individual tracks that you have to cipher through and make sure everything sounds good, do volume levels and all of that other good stuff right there. Now, we're coming up to the end of the article. Now, let me give you my 2 cents on this. All right. So I believe that, you know what I'm saying, this will work in a perfect world, and it will work. It depends on your ensemble that you got going on in your DAW, whatever you're mixing the multi-tracks on or whatever the case may be. I can tell you right now, this won't work with a lot of different genres of music. So let's say, for instance, you're working with hip hop, any type of electronic music, EDM, pop, and all that other good stuff, R&B, not the old school R&B. We're talking about that new urban contemporary type of R&B. This probably won't work, and I'm gonna tell you why. When you start from that mix bus processing, the mix is going to be all over the place. It's going to be loppy. You're going to have a lot of different dynamic changes or whatever. So it's going to be real hard to try to control everything from the mix bus processing and then go to the subgroups where you have like all your drums and then you have all your vocals and then you got shitload of synthesizers and then maybe like one acoustical instrument mixed up in there somewhere. It's going to be hard to try to control that on the mix bus processing because you're really not going to be able to nail it like you need to. Now, when it comes to the subgroup, the middle layer, it'll get a little bit easier there. Because you have your drums, you have like all the other synthesizers, and then you'll have like the something like your percussion or all your vocals. You can have a little bit more control there. Okay. And then for your individual tracks, I can get where they're coming from with that. And you'll make 80% of your mixing decisions there because you don't have to EQ and you don't have to compress every track. So I kind of get where they're coming from with that. You don't have to do that all the time. You understand what I'm saying? And I see why they're starting to gear towards the top-down mixing. You want everything to sound rugged and sound like you heard it in the creative process. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of times we'll in the hip hop world, we'll worry about getting that kick to sound thick, sound punchy, and boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? Have a lot of tack on there, and it may take you about 15 minutes to get that process and just right on that kick or the snare, or the lead vocal. You know what I'm saying, or whatnot. And if you record it right, if you do everything right, if you get the tonality on the original synth sound right when you recorded it in the production phase, it's gonna sound right and whatnot. So why mess up something that already sound good? You know what I'm saying? And I can understand where they come from with that, but, and there's a but to this, but you know what I'm saying, everything is meant to, well, you can enhance it a little bit more. But then if you make all of these different changes and these mixed decisions in the individual process last, then you're going to have to repeat and make changes slowly on the sub group side or the middle layer, the subgroup side. And then you're also going to have to make those changes on the mix bus side as well, because now your mix bus is not going to be jamming or have that bob like it used to. So when they say this is going to help, what they said, this is going to help you work quickly, it's like you're going to get down to the lower level quickly, but then you're going to have to kind of crawl and, you know what I'm saying, fight your way up to get your sounding right as you did initially. If that makes any sense. So you'll fall down quick, but then you'll move up slow because you're trying to get the sound sounding back like it was at the top, if that makes any sense. So just like you started off strong at the top, you can fall flat on your ass at the bottom, and that shit can sound fucked up because you're hearing all these different things when you hit the solo button on the individual track. You understand what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, yeah, it can work, but it won't work on everything. Now, I can see it where it'll work real good on acoustical stuff. So let's say, for instance, you have a drum set, you have a drum player playing the drums, you have two guitars, you have a keyboardist, a bassist, and a vocalist. And now it'll work for that, you know what I'm saying, because you don't have a lot of different elements going on in the mix. But when you start dealing with hip hop and pop and EDM and all this other electronic type of music, you got a lot of different track counts coming in, and that could just be the beat itself. The beat itself can have anywhere from 16 tracks to goddamn 48 tracks or more. You know what I'm saying? You're not even putting the vocals in multi-track just yet and stuff like that. So I kind of want to agree with this new style of mixing, top-down mixing, but then again, I do not want to agree with it because when you go to audio school, and I graduated from a school, I went to audio school or whatnot, and we were taught, you know what I'm saying, working with those individual tracks, getting that right, basically we was taught signal flow. Once you learn signal flow, you're taught the right way to record and the proper techniques. And then from there, working individually to get those sounds sitting properly in the mix. And then from there, you can move on to that subgroup and that mix bus stuff. And that's where it gets fun at, because you're kind of like, it's kind of like you with the individual tracks, you're mining for that diamond stone. You understand what I'm saying? Once you find that diamond stone and you start taking off the dirt and start chiseling off all the other that other stuff around that diamond, and now you can see the diamond. You can see it. You know what I'm saying? You can start to see the clarity in the stone. Okay, that's where you at the subgroup stage. Once you start polishing that up and really kind of like making it what it is, and start making the form of the diamond and start making those cuts, that's that subgroup stage. Okay. Now, once you got it to the shape of what type of diamond you want from the subgroup stage, then you'll move on to that mix bus stage. And then that's where you really kind of go in there and you get that little thing around your eye, and you really start looking at that diamond, and you start chiseling off and making that thing shine, making it sound good, making the cuts precise. That's where you start getting into emerald cuts and the princess cuts and the oval cuts and all that other different type of cuts for that particular stone, and really show the carat of that particular diamond. That's the way you would want to mix, you know what I'm saying, from the individual tracks to the subgroups to the mix bus. that's the way a lot of people have been taught. But this new shit with top down mixing, it probably won't be a good practice for electronic music. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. So you could definitely try it out. Definitely search it on YouTube, top down mixing, and see if it'll work for yourself. Take an old session or take something that that's really not time sensitive and work with it and see if it works for you. It may be some things that you can start out with and then work your way back, and you have to find your own workflow that'll work for you. And I'm definitely gonna do this on my next Twitch stream live. I'm gonna actually work on this top down mixing technique. I'm gonna put together a session and practice this technique coming down and see if that'll actually help. Okay. And I hope you guys do the same thing as well, man. Practice top down mixing and see if it works for you and your workflow, man. They go on to say in the article on sonarworks.com, this strategy works better in some genres than others. Now, I just told y'all that before I actually start reading this, but not all mixes are going to be straight ahead for this particular skill set, top down mixing. Some songs will require a lot of specific individual tracks, effects, and touch-ups or whatnot. But, productions like a lot of synth-based productions, for example, depending on the sound design and elements, and they really don't lend themselves to this kind of like quick and dirty type of approach with top-down mixing to get the mix sounding good in its place. So we talked about that again. It goes on to say, so it may vary on what it will work on. Like I said, it'll work on something simplified, like, two guitars, a bass, a drummer with his drum set, a keyboardist, vocalist, and it may work like that. And in this article at the end, it says rock, country, and jazz records certainly can benefit from this particular approach. So, definitely try that out if you're in that genre, that rock, soft rock, which don't have a lot of moving parts in the production side of things. Country and jazz records definitely can benefit from it. I definitely agree with them on that. When it comes to electronic music, a lot of synth-based type of stuff, it probably won't work, man. It probably won't work, man. But nevertheless, though, man, this will have you thinking about different workflows that you could apply to your mixing and approach to your mix for your session and stuff like that, man. So this is going to be the end of the podcast right here, man. Definitely go try that new technique that's been trending here in 2020 and probably longer. I just stumbled up on it not too long ago. Top down mixing, man. Definitely go check that out on YouTube. Try to see how people are doing it out there. Practice it for yourself, man. And I have the link for this particular article that I've been referencing off of this whole podcast in the description down below. Make sure you go check that out, man. And that'll be it for the podcast, man. Definitely go follow On The Beat podcast on Instagram at onthebeat.podcast. Definitely follow us on Instagram. And like us, man, you know what I'm saying? Follow us on Instagram. If you want to come on the show and chop it up about mixing, or, you're a producer, you want to come on and, brand your music or whatnot, or if you know of an artist that needs to come on and, promote some stuff, definitely feel free to hit us up on our email. Our email is onthebeat.podcast@gmail.com. Again, our email is onthebeat.podcast@gmail.com, man. Definitely hit us up there, or you can shoot us a direct message on Instagram at onthebeat.podcast on Instagram, and we'll definitely respond to you there. If you're interested in simply just, letting us know, we work out a schedule and get you on the show as well, man. Want to give a shout out to give a shout out to Jack's Creative Media for everything they do, making this possible as well, man. You guys can follow me directly on Instagram at Supa Mario _producer. You can check me out there. That's my main social media platform. So I'm very responsible on there. If you got any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM there as well, man. Make sure you follow my YouTube page as well, where all the podcasts are going to. The full episodes in its entirety on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube, like, and all that other good stuff, man. Follow me on YouTube, Supa Mario. That's simple. Supa Mario on YouTube. Follow me there. And also, follow my Twitch page. I go live on Twitch Sundays and Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we work on a little bit of everything. We do a little live beat making, a little bit of mixing, and we chop it up in there. We talk. And, it's a teaching tool that I like to use Twitch for. You can find me on twitch.tv/JCS Productions. Excuse me. Again, that's twitch.tv/JCS Productions. Okay. Follow me there on Twitch, and, we'll definitely get it popping. I appreciate you if you pop in on a Wednesday or a Sunday night, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, man. Again, man, make sure y'all go check out Music Soul Live Showcase coming up December 19th, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Instagram at Music Soul Live Showcase. Make sure you go follow them. And this is going to be it for the podcast, man. Make sure you go practice at your own risk. Practice at your own risk. Top down mixing, man. Don't go be like, man, I heard this dude named Supa Mario said, man, do top down mixing and fuck my mix up. Nah, I'm not selling you that, man. Just try it out on something that's not sensitive or client sensitive or time sensitive, and see if it works for yourself, man. Top down mixing, man. Definitely go check that new mixing trend out here, man. This has been your boy Supa Mario with On The Beat Podcast, man. We're gonna go ahead, chunk no deuces. We are out of here. Make sure you follow and subscribe to us on Spreaker.com, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, man. This has been your boy Supa Mario, man. We are out of here. Peace.